you just in case that you want to put some notes in there. Okay. And
Can you take good notes on here? That way it goes.
and that's basically
Yeah, this
what
might
it
die,
is.
so let me.
So what I'm going to with you is a big picture of what we're gonna see in the future, even though there is some information that you can always come to this first session. This is a summary, an overview. For instance, I'm gonna show you some tables. I'm still the table guy, remember?
Yeah.
And I'm still the table guy, right? And what I'm gonna show you is that there is a table of pathways for all these molecules. There is a pathway of carbohydrate table. There is a table for pathway for proteins. And it's very handy. For instance, when I was doing reviews in the Midwest, I did a review for a number of years in med schools and dental school around the Kansas City area. And it was laughable. Now I looking back, was laughable. I went twice, 2 sessions, and each session will last 2 hours or 4 hours of review. And what I will do to the student, make sure that you know this, make sure that you know this, make sure that you know this. But actually, they found my table particularly very handy, because you can always go to the table. I know what this is, because the table has highly summarized information, so you can see these diagrams. I call it diagram or flow charts. So, oh, I know what this is. When you see G being converted into B, you say, aha, this is glycolysis. Because sometimes we can answer questions about glycolysis and we don't have to write those 10 pesky reactions. And we don't need to know those 10 pesky enzymes names. And the classes are, sometimes the question is answering a very big picture about glycolysis. And this they found, and so hopefully this is what you're going to be doing, finding this value. There is a lot of information, and this is intro information. The details of the information they're going to be, you're going to see that later. Look at this. I'm going to start with the proteins, which is in contrast what we did in biochemistry, right? Why protein? Because everything that we do is done by proteins. Remember, a short sweet name for proteins is what?
Amino acids. Oh.
Okay? Since proteins do mostly everything, how do we call proteins? Who remembers that?
Doers.
Doers, very good. Do, very good, Robert. Okay, you can see right there, look at this. And remember, this is, you are responsible for knowing the 20 protein amino acids. Something is shaking, I know.
Yeah, it's really bothering me.
I thought it was my weight. It's, oh my Lord, that was all the lasagna that you ate last night. You see that? And you can see right there, look at this. Half of the amino acids are called non-polar. You see that? Half of the amino acids are called non-polar. And you can see right there, make sure that you know. And why there are amino acids in red? Remember when you were my student? You're still my student, right? You said, be aware of the red, but don't forget the black. Right? You see that? So why glycine is in red? Why proline is in red? Why tryptophan is in red? Why cysteine is in red? And and why tyrosine is in red? What is unique about glycine?
Oh, it's
What is unique about glycine? There are 2 things unique about glycine. No other amino acid has that. Who remembers that? It's the smallest. Secondly, it doesn't have stereoisomers. Those are the questions that might get you. You don't know what those guys, all guys from wars can come out. They're running out of questions. You see what I mean? So sometimes, even though the students that they took board, the students I have with some of the students, they share and they say, what is unique about proline? See how the information goes away?
Yes.
Very rapid. What is unique about proline? It's a secondary amine. It's an amino acid. Amino. Instead of being amino, it's called amino. Because it's a secondary, the alpha amino group, instead of being a primary amine, I'm gonna show you the typical structure of an amino acid. That does not apply to proline. What is unique about tryptophan, which is the opposite of glycine?
It's very good.
So you have to do better. What is the opposite of being the smallest?
The largest.
The largest, of course. You see that? Okay, and why tyrosine? Why tyrosine is also in red? Because it's the second largest. Okay, what is about cysteine? Okay,
The disulfide.
yeah, disulfide bonds. You see that? So, and then these are the families. Make sure that you know your 20 protein amino acids. If you can know the families, you are even in better shape about any questions about amino acids. And I'm getting a date for this, guys. Where you get, here it is. I just working on this last night after dinner. I said, I want to take a break. I told my wife, I want to take a break. I know we want to watch this whole movie. Okay, I am a movie rat. Have you seen the movies called Essence or Woman?
Yeah.
It's an old movie by Al Pacino, and there is a lot of messages in there. Okay, he's blind. Okay, he's not a very nice person at the end. He's the greatest. Okay, and so there is a lot of messages in there. And one of the messages I was conveying this to my students this morning is, you know, life is made of hard choices. For instance, being a doctor, you have to make a lot of hard choices. You have to sacrifice a lot of, but at the end, it's, you know, if you do things right, you're gonna be rewarded. And one of the messages in this movie is that he was there and he said, you know, and there's this lieutenant colonel, or colonel, lieutenant, I don't never put those.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel. So thank you for clarifying that for us. And he says, I have many hard choices in my life, and I never took them. I went around them because I wanted to grow in my field, okay? And but this kid, it's about school that is getting in trouble because other kids did something really bad in the school. And but this kid, you know, he has integrity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's no snitch, and I love that.
No
You
snitch.
know, if you get a chance to see it, you know, it's a very good movie. I like it. And besides, Pacino is one of my favorite guys. So here it is. This is what you see in amino acid. Try to put this together. Okay. Remember, you are not going to see any chemistry. But just writing the structure of this, you're gonna see that you're gonna find this in all amino acids. Anything that is called an amino acid is gonna have this structure. The only thing is gonna change is this part right here. Okay, this is the only part that's gonna change. The classification of the amino acid, whether it's polar or whether it's non-polar, and based on the nature of the R group. Remember that. And I'm gonna go back now that you see the structure, right? You're gonna see the structure. Oops, wrong way. You can see. Look at this. Look at this. The classification. Look at this. Amino acids are group or classified based on the polarity of the R chain. You see that? Side chain, charge chain. There are many names for that. So now you see that. Be aware that they might show you some names for non-protein amino acids. Most amino acids in cells are non-protein amino acids. How many amino acids typically we have in cells? Close to how many?
20,000.
20,000?
At least
No.
273.
There was a 20,000 number you mentioned.
5 million
No,
molar.
about 100 different amino acids,
5 million.
okay?
No.
100 different amino acids are found in cells. Only 20 are called protein amino acids because those are the ones that are building blocks for proteins. For instance, these two amino acids are called no protein amino acids. Do they sound familiar?
Yeah.
If you see this, any of these amino acids on boards, you should be
Bless
thinking
you.
right away,
Thank you, sorry. That they're not protein. These are their own cell.
what is the function of these amino acids? What do they do? They are metabolites of what pathway?
Oh, Krebs cycle. No. Zero.
The urea cycle. Oh yeah. Now that you mention it, right? I was about to say that,
Well,
right?
everything you say, it's like I'm standing at the door and I just don't have the right key right now.
There you go. You will because you have no choice.
That's me all the time.
So this is another. This is, you make sure that you know that they are nine. They are essential. Okay. And again, you can see they are highlighted. Why they are highlighted, cysteine and methionine with the same color? Is there a color? So what are unique? No, there are any of these 20 amino acids that have that element.
They can start the chain.
Yeah, that's but you know this never started change, so that's not something that they share. Sulfur. They are sulfur containing, so put a note in your note. And again, you can see right here, look at this. Proline, is the tryptophan is the largest, this is the smallest, this is a secondary amine. Make sure that you next in this line you put secondary amine and you call it amino, the proline. You never know what those guys are gonna be asking you. Okay? They might ask you, they might put a question about, you know, amino acid sequencing. So for instance, they might ask you, you know, the Eggman degradation, how do we know the amino acid sequence of proteins? There are some reagents, so I put the reagents in there to make sure that you do a short review of this. Okay? So I'm listing the reagents and what is the purpose of the reagents. Okay? For instance, look at this. What was the first protein that was sequenced? There is amino acid composition and there is amino acid sequence. The amino acid composition tell us the amino acids they are there. The amino acid sequence determination tell us the position of those amino acids. You see that? For instance, if you do an amino acid sequencing, stop shaking, okay? If you do an amino acid sequencing, right? If you do an amino acid composition of this small protein hormone or peptide hormone, you're gonna find that maybe there is no tryptophan. You see that? I think that's what we found the other way, because all the amino acids in here, all the 20 protein amino acids, sometimes when the protein is too small, one of those 20 protein amino acids might be missing. But once we get to about 300 or more amino acids, it's very likely that every single protein amino acid is there. Okay? This is the first table. I'm still the table guy. Make sure that you know the structural levels of proteins, primary, secondary, tertiary. And remember, tertiary, quaternary is only applied mostly to globular proteins. Make sure that you know how we make the primary structure. What are the linkages responsible? what are the parts of the amino acid that participate, right? Remember the secondary structure, hydrogen bonds between peptide bond, because we can also do hydrogen bond using the group amino acids. But making amino acid, making a hydrogen bond via the R groups is part of the tertiary structure. You see that? It's a tertiary structure. All the interactions are possible. See that? Look at this. Hydrogen bond, okay? Disulfide bond, hydrogen bond, van der Waals, and hydrophobic interaction, even ionic. And that's why you need to know. They might ask you, for instance, what amino acid stabilizes a globular protein by making, what amino acids in protein can stabilize the tertiary structure of protein by making ionic interactions. You see that? Or making hydrophobic interaction, or making hydrogen bonds. Okay? What molecule, I want to clarify this one more time. What molecule preferential can make hydrogen bonds?
Water.
What are the requirements of what molecules, plural, preferentially make hydrogen bonds, polar and charged? What molecules, for instance, what amino acid preferentially make ionic interaction to stabilize the tertiary structure of protein? Those amino acids, they are charged. The 2 acidic amino acids and the 3 basic amino acids. That's why you want to know that the only charges in proteins coming from the ends, because they are always charged, but they also, for instance, if we use this example, and let me tell you, this is more than probably what you're gonna be getting, but I think you want to be in that position. That was what the students conveyed to me on Monday. I ran into a group of students when I was going to my biochemistry class, and they were waiting for Brett White. They were going to have lab with him in 308, I think is the number. And when I walk in, they, whatever. It's a very nice, funny class. And I had them for the first part of Biochemistry 1, and then in the middle of Biochemistry 1, that's when we went online. So I got to know them a little bit at the beginning of the semester. In contrast with you, that mostly, we have online classes, even though from, I think, half of the semester in Biochemistry 2, we got together for reviews on Fridays, and that's how I got to know you guys a little bit better. But that's basically what I remember, that there is a charge in here, right? There is a plus in glycine, there is a minus in here, and the same happens. But you can also find internal charges. That's what I always tell my students, amino acids and proteins are the only biomolecules that are always charged at physiological pH. Okay? And then, for instance, if you go over here, you're gonna see that glutamate is gonna have a negative charge, and you keep on going, and then keep on going, and here the glutamate again, and then you keep on going, and they are cysteine, a little bit of positive charge, and keep on going. Here is cysteine, here's glutamate, and then keep on going, and see what I mean? Here is an arginine, a minus next to a plus, you see that? So this is probably more than you need. It's almost like you gonna go there knowing more than they do.
Over prepared, yeah. It's
Okay?
perfect.
It's a good feeling. Okay. So, and the sooner that you start putting this together, see, maybe today, you say, I'm gonna review what are the amino acids that are essential. You see what I mean? I'm gonna write this down until, or whatever you do to put things together in your head. Do it today.
Okay.
It's almost like, even though we're gonna talk about amino acid metabolism later in another session, you already have done a little bit of the homework about this. Don't leave it for December. You see what I mean? Don't leave it for December. It's gonna be a little easy so you start doing a little bit, every day. And this is just about, the main type of proteins in cells. Most proteins, remember, are globular. Okay, there are a few fibrous proteins. And these are some of the characteristics. Okay? So make sure that when you see a fibrous protein, you should be able to recognize it. So when you have a short list and a long list, you want to focus on the short list. That's my recommendation. Because it's easy work. So if it's not part of that short list, then you have to assume that belongs to a big family. For instance, when you see something like, I'm gonna say fibronectin, you are not going to get that example. It's too obvious. Choose the fibrous protein from this choice and you see fibronectin and you say, that's too obvious. I'm not going to pick that one. It's a tricky question. No, it's not. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. Work on the short list. Okay?
So cute.
So I leave that to you. Okay? So this is one of those tables. You are not going to find these tables in any book. Okay? And that's why I said that these tables are very handy.
So true.
Okay, look at this. How many proteins are out there? This is the number. Most of them are globular. But the total weight of the total globular protein is much, much, much lower than the total weight of the few fibrous protein. And how can you justify? A good example is what? The skeleton. The weight of the skeleton is a major proportion of our body weight. Once we are a cadaver, what is left is that skeleton, right? And remember, the skeleton is mostly what?
Bones? Oh, fine.
Totally agree with you, but this is anatomy. This is biochemistry. Okay. Okay.
Calcium and phosphorus.
It's mostly minerals and protein. 50-50. What is the main protein? Type 1 collagen. See that?
Yeah, it is bones.
This is the enzymes. So in everything that we do, we talk about pathways and all this stuff. I just got into Unit 1 with biochemistry 2, and I showed that metabolic map. Remember that metabolic map when I said, where is Waldo? And when you saw that, you just wanted to cry, right?
You ain't lying.
I remember that.
And so well, make sure, and here it is. Make sure that you know your enzymes in case that somebody. You don't need to know all the enzymes. You need to know some special feature about some special enzymes. But it's, here it is, the chemical reaction that is catalyzed by cells. For instance, they might ask you, for instance, what classes enzyme, okay, are the digestive enzymes? That's a very fair question. No, last time I checked.
Biases? That's what came.
Hydrolysis.
So what is digestion?
Breaking down.
They are hydrolysis. It's a hydrolysis process. Okay? Here they are hydrolysis.
Says it. I can read.
He was blocking us out of the board. I couldn't see.
So you
Exactly.
already have failed boards a few times.
Okay.
Okay?
Go with your gut. My gut.
Come on, I can read.
That's why I'm doing. We got blocked.
Yes.
I'm like an
Look at
inch
this.
from you. It's not.
Look at this. You see that? This is the table about metabolic pathway to amino acid. What is the first pathway that you need to know? Digestion. Look at this. The protein in lasagna is digested, right? And that digestion is a hydrolytic process. So all digestive enzymes are hydrolases, and you can see, there we go. And we wanna see some of this. We wanna see this, some of this. But for instance, the med school students, they found these tables very, and some of them were very, very, I'm gonna say, they show the appreciation. Okay, they send a lot of emails saying, oh, why don't you teach here? You say, yeah, you know, why don't I teach there, right? So anyway, and so this is half of the table of this pathway. And this is the second table. You see that? Look at this. This is what I mean, simplify. This is what you need. Look at this. They might give you something like this. What metabolic pathway is represented by this diagram? You see that? And that's what I do, you know, that's what I'm trying to convince my students today. Simplify, don't rewrite two notes. Make the notes, the presentation shorter and sweeter for you. Don't make it more complex, okay? And that's basically what it is. You can see right here. Okay, so this, if we want to see some of this later in some other sessions. So what I'm presenting is all the things that we talk about, amino acids. And then there is another table for lipids. You see that? And start with digestion. And we're going to see that again now in nutrition, that you are in nutrition. So I think it's a very good idea what you're doing right now. Okay? The sooner that you take the sports, the better, guys. Okay? There are some students that they already graduated and they had not passed boards. My feeling is they are never going to pass boards. Okay? And I'm glad that the school did something about, because now you cannot get into the clinic,
Good.
okay, unless you have passed, you know, part one. That was a requirement in the other school. That was a requirement in the other school. Things get out to our heads so fast.
I don't know. Just 3 semesters.
It's scary, it's scary. Okay, it's scary. So the sooner that you take these boards, the better for you guys. So I think what you're doing is very wise. So this is the pathway, and we're gonna go through some of this in some of the sessions, okay? And then, and again, it's very, you know, it's very, very, you know, short and simple. And you can see this is the other half of the table. Okay, shadows. We're gonna talk about shadow. There are 4 shadows. You need to know, and we're gonna review that later. You need to know what is the purpose. Most of the questions you're gonna go on boards is about big picture. Why do we have, what is the purpose of the 4 shadows? The first 2 is called the GPS and the mass. What is the purpose of those? Okay, and because here the mirrors, you look at this. Here is, you know, look at this. This is the citrate shadow. You see that? There is the citrate shadow. I'm gonna go back because I left one in the previous half of the table. Look at this. This is another shadow. Look at this carnitine shadow. What is the purpose of carnitine shadow? Beta oxidation of fatty acids. Okay. What is the purpose of the citrate shadow? Fatty acid synthesis. What is the purpose of GPS? What is the purpose of the mass? The oxidation of cytosolic NADH. We're gonna see that later. You need to know the big picture of everything. What is the purpose of the 20 protein amino acids? The main purposes. Yeah, make protein. It's obvious, right? You will be surprised. The silly questions that they're gonna ask you. So, are you going to fail those silly questions? You said, no way, Jose.
So cute.
Then we get into carbohydrates. You see that? When you have something like this, look at this. We're gonna digest the main dietary carbohydrate. So what is the main dietary carbohydrate? Starch. How many enzymes does it take to convert the starch into glucose?
Six.
I'm gonna say 8.
Four.
What is the main enzyme? The digestion of starch and it breaks into little pieces called, dextrins. It's in the saliva.
Families.
Alpha amylase. You see that? That's the beginning. And this enzyme is going to generate pieces. We're going to see that. Maybe. And you can see the pathway. Okay? Can you recognize this pathway? Okay, and this is the talk about this. Okay, so please don't ignore this table. When you lost in your studies, what you want to do, this is you, maybe a few days we're gonna take the big day. You're gonna get over there, you're gonna get your favorite chair or sofa, you're gonna get your feet up, right? And maybe your dogs is right there, right? And you say, okay, I'm gonna go and I go mentally, I'm going to eat. And I'll get pizza or lasagna. So I'm gonna select what is the main nutrient that I'm going to be digesting. Maybe you say, okay, I'm gonna go for the crust because that's my favorite part. So the crust is mostly made of flour, which is mostly starch. And you go mentally, or maybe with a little bit short notes, you make a diagram. So I'm gonna be digesting this starch. And I'm gonna be generating, the digestion of starch is gonna generate just glucose. Glucose is starch is made of glucose. And you do this with starch. And you maybe, briefly, if you can remember the enzymes, it's okay. If you don't, it's okay too. Okay? And then you go to saying, what is the other dietary carbohydrate that also needs digestion? And you say, okay, it's gonna be sucrose. Okay? And because you eat in lasagna, there is lactose in there because there is cheese. And you say, aha, and then I have the lactose. Those are the main dietary carbohydrates that need digestion. Make sure that you know that. Okay? You're also gonna have free glucose and free fructose, but they don't need digestion because they are already monosaccharides. Do the mental exercise before you are asked to do the mental exercise. It's like boxing, right? What do? You hit the bag until, so when you get a real monster in front of you that want to take your head off, you're ready to go. You see what I mean? It's real, you have to be prepared. If you are prepared, you're gonna laugh. Like these students were laughing, oh, project was wee. Okay? So you want to be all prepared. So that's basically what this is about. And you can see, I mentioned subpathways, and we're gonna see this. For instance, there is a unit when we're gonna talk about glycolysis. But I just mentioned, in what aspect? Pathway, what key enzyme and why? Look at this, because it's related to the enzyme that are vitamin dependent. That is a board question. I have seen it multiple times. What coenzyme is using glycolysis? And they give you 4 choices. So tell me, are you gonna miss that question?
No.
I hope you don't. Because you don't want to show up in my office, Bracho, what I did. I went to boards and you were right. They asked me the enzyme or the vitamin that is needed in glycolysis. Boy, and I couldn't say that I missed that question. And I say, shame on you. See what I mean? Who is a good goalkeeper? I'm talking about soccer now. Who is a good shortstop? I like that. What is a good shortstop? I don't know if you know about baseball. What is reliable shortstop? A shortstop that makes most of the routine plays. Because most hitters are gonna hit the ball too because of the dynamics or the pitching and the dynamic of swinging the bat. So it's very likely that the ball is gonna go in that direction if it goes on the ground. And it's gonna go. So the shortstop, good shortstop is one that made this routine plays. And they made the routine plays with a lot of comfort. So, okay, this is routine for me. Bing. Go to the first base. If a double play is gonna go to first base. So make sure that you can answer the easy question, which I'm gonna be the majority. Okay, you're gonna get some tough questions, but the tough questions are the minority. Who is a good goalkeeper is the same. When we play soccer, when we shooting for, I don't know if you ever play soccer, but what do? You basically train, make sure that you hit the in the middle of the net, because they try, if you try to hit to the sides, then most of the time you're gonna hit it. You're gonna hit it out. So the target is the middle of the goal. So that's why the good goalkeeper always made the routine plays. That's a reliable goalkeeper. That's basically what you want to do. And you can see, so here it is, it's an example. Okay? I always use the example of the PDH complex, because it looks like a very simple chemical reaction. However, there are 4 vitamins that are needed. And the same happens for the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase complex, the same enzymes and the same coenzymes. So you cannot leave look at this. Know your metabolites. Do you remember when you were in biochemistry? You don't remember.
Oh my goodness.
You wanted to scratch me from the surface of the planet. Oh, this blood sugar is making my life miserable. Sometimes they ask me, he said, what do you do? I make my students suffer. Okay, so here it is. Make sure that you know your metabolites. You are not going to get any chemistry, any structures typically. It's about names. So what is this guy? What is this? GAP.
That's G3B.
What is the meaning of that? What is the full name of GAP? Oh, what is your name? Well, they call me GAP. No, but your real name, because this is a legal document.
Glycerol 3 phosphate.
The P is typically phosphate, very good. Okay.
I don't remember.
Glyceraldehyde,
Yes.
3-phosphate. They for aldehyde. I like the old name better. It was G3P. Yeah, but they changed it because of this. And I think it's because the GAP is stored and stuff. Most people are able to remember GAP and no Bradshaw.
So funny.
Make sure that you know your
It's coming
metabolites.
back though.
Okay? And look at this, what I did.
I remember everything.
I put some stuff in there. You see that? Some enzymes. Make sure you know metabolites and enzymes. Okay? You might get some questions on enzymes. But I'm pretty sure that you're gonna get more questions about metabolites. For instance, they give you 4 metabolites. Pick the metabolite from the PPP. See that? And there are metabolites on many pathways. Or they might ask you, this metabolite is part of PPP, is part of glycolysis, is part of gluconeogenesis. And that's why when you see the integrated metabolic pathway, there is a metabolite Do you remember those? Do you remember those, if you remember those integrated pathways, and you know that the sign you got a dot, and then you have a line, you know, and you see there was another line right here. Because this metabolite means this can be converted into this. So this might be going into glycogen. That might be going into pyruvate. This might be going into ribose 5-phosphate. You see that? So this particular metabolite is part of glycogen metabolism, that is also part of glycolysis, but it's also part of the PPP. Can you name it?
Glucose?
Yeah, very good. Of course. I put a list of molecular diseases. Are these all the molecular diseases? If you know all the molecular diseases from other courses, you know, add an extra table and put those in there. You might get, for instance, you can see right there, look at this. What is it, you know? What is the cause? What is the affected protein? That's why most diseases they can be called molecular diseases or protein diseases, but typically a disease is caused because there is a protein that is defected or affected by that condition. And that's why there is always a protein that is the defective cause of that disease. So if you know the diseases from other courses, basically all you have to do is build into this. You use this table as a reference and you put something similar you want to know. You might get a question. You want to know, I don't know, I told you, let me see if I time. I want to relate this to you because it's important. When I was to take my qualifying examination for my PhD, I have taken all the courses. I was already working. I had like about 1/3 of my research done. And then you want to pass a qualifying examination. And what is a qualifying examination? You have to pass a grueling test, and it's an oral examination. You have 5 guys over there. They are experts in their fields. And their field somehow is related to the research that you do. And they can ask you anything. So what I did, I had, out of those 5 guys, I had 2 that were my teachers. I just went to their office and said, listen, you're gonna be one of the professors for my qualifying. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, I took your classes. It's not that I'm ignoring. I know the kind of question that you might ask. You do? Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to, you to know, I'm glad that you are part of my qualifying. I did that. And then I went to the guys, the other 3 guys that I had not taken any of these courses. I said, listen, I know, I'm pretty sure that you know that you are gonna be one of my qualifying examiners. So I wanted to see if I could sit down in your course, even though I'm not registered in your course. And I didn't have to do that. You pay for tuition, you can seek any course that you want to. So I'm going to sit in your course, because I'm gonna be auditing your course to get acquainted to what you teach and the type of questions. So if you don't mind, you also give me a test. When you pass the test among your students, give me a test. Because that's the only way that you can prove that you're getting that information. If you don't mind also, and it was a lot of work for the teacher, because it was not multiple choice like in here. So you get 4 questions and you write your answers and say, oh, I will be happy to do that. So anyway, I did that. And I prepared like about 200 questions. I'm gonna have about 50 questions from each one of these guys. And this is a true story. I was there for about 3 hours. And from the questions I have prepared for these 4 guys, there were 3 that were not in my list. And one, I was able to give a reasonable answer. The other two, I had no idea. So, and they say, okay, let's take a break after 2 hours. I said, let's take a break. It's okay. And, you know, you get out of there and they got together and they call me back. It's, 3 more hours, because typically that's the average time for a qualifying examination. And he said, we're done with you. Okay, we don't have to go. You prepare very well.
Aw.
Preparation is the key, guys. Preparation is the key. Preparation only depends on you. So make sure that you fully prepare. Make sure that you will know the other stuff. I don't know if there is any more information over here. Prepare. Don't wait for December. There is a few things that you can do today. For instance, example, maybe put together the essential amino acid. Yeah, but it's gonna be in January. You remember it today very well. It may be a month from today, you do it again. I'm going to recheck my essential amino acid, and you do this routine, and when you get over there and they ask you, you're gonna get a question about essential amino acid. Make sure that when you answer it. I'm gonna stop here, guys.